Hey everybody, I'm Two-Tone the Artist.
I'm Mr. Peach.
Welcome back to the Hills Are Silent podcast, where we chop it up about the video games of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Come on, y'all, let's get into it. Mitch, I hope you've been doing some gaming. What have you been playing?
I'm always doing some gaming, even when I'm in the midst of trying to find a new apartment. I'm still doing my gaming. Have to get it in. I'm pleased to say that I've been playing a game that I got early access to, and it is Hogwarts Legacy. And I'm super excited to talk about this. Before I go into it, I did say I got pre-order access 72 hours in advance. They gave us for pre-ordering the game. You got to play it early, which is nice. I'm glad I got to.
That's a good incentive. I'm down with that.
Yeah, I usually don't pre-order games because, as you know, games usually go down in price very quickly after they release. But in this instance, I was so excited to play this game, I just had to pre-order. And I think I kind of fell into the trap of everyone was pre-ordering it, kind of like an Elden Ring scenario. So I fell into it, but I'm pleased to say that it is an amazing game. I've hardly scratched the surface of it, and I'm so excited to keep going.
So, two questions. Well,
Okay.
One, I'm assuming it's not on Game Pass if you pre-ordered it.
No, it's not.
Okay, boo. Second, what console did you get it on?
I am playing on my Xbox Series X.
Okay.
I wanted to couch game it. I didn't want play it at my own pace, and that's usually my favorite thing to do. And so the cool thing about it was, I know depending on what you're playing it on, right when you launch it, you can choose between a performance mode or I guess their more graphic heavy mode. And from everything I looked up playing, even on an Xbox Series X, which is the most powerful console, quote unquote, I still played on performance mode, and I appreciate. I think it runs really well on performance mode, and the graphics still look great.
Yeah, I tend to lean towards performance mode because half the time I'm so far back from my TV anyway that at that point the change in detail is kind of negligible to me. So I'd rather get a smoother gameplay than a little bit cleaner visuals.
Absolutely. It can look as great as possible, but if it's running clunky, I really don't care. I rather my play through be as smooth as possible.
So is this an open world game?
Yeah, so developed by Avalanche Software, and I'm going to come back to them because I think it'll be a fun game to rattle off the games they've developed aside from Hogwarts Legacy. Okay. It's pretty funny. But it is a action RPG that reminds me a lot of games like The Witcher 3. I think it's a really good comparison, just by the way, so you learn spells throughout your playthrough in Hogwarts Legacy. From the short time I've played, I've learned maybe 3 or 4 spells. And those spells are placed in your slots where you basically hold the trigger, and then you get to pick between multiple spells to cast with, A, B, X, Y. So, the different ones you learn throughout your time, eventually you can mix and match and slot them in different buttons because you'll have a bunch of spells that looks by the end of it, and you'll have to really tailor it to who you're fighting or what you're doing or whatnot. So yeah, it seems like there's a lot of depth to it, but it reminds me a lot of The Witcher with that and a lot of the gear customization, which I think is kind of funny because if you wear a funky pair of glasses, the Harry Potter glasses, for instance, you get a buff of +4, almost like having armor for wearing glasses. Or you put a new robe on and you get a buff of some sort. So kind of it's very in hand in hand with a lot of RPGs, and especially The Witcher, and when you get certain rarities of gear and whatnot.
So you said you can mix spells together to make combined spells?
It's not more mixed together, but a lot of them you can use together. So there'll be one where you can grab them and throw them in the air, and then you can use another spell to to freeze them in place, and then you can just start wailing on them with your basic spell, which is almost just a basic shot of sorts, if you're using a gun.
Or you can hit them with a freeze spell and a fire spell and just keep them at room temperature.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, from what I saw, there was a ton of spells, so it could very well be possible.
So have you gotten into any boss battles yet?
So, kind of, maybe. I haven't done a ton of the story content because I'm only 3 hours in, and I've been so mesmerized by, like, the world they created. Like, it's so well done. Like, I love Harry Potter in general. So getting to get my hands on and actually play a game in the world they created, and like seeing like a lot of nods to the books, to the movies, whatnot, and even just running around and like getting collectibles, because a lot of the collectibles you get are basically nods to a lot of the books, and it gives you a little like description on like where this was in the book, or what's the importance of this, this monument in Hogwarts or wherever you are.
Yeah, so you're saying you're only a couple hours in, but just curious, from what you've played so far, is it like a whole new class where none of the characters are from the books, or are the characters from the books in this game?
So you yourself create your own character. So I created just a Mitch character, it's my guy, and so I named him I designed him to look like me, and then basically at some point I get put into a house. I use the sorting hat like they do in the movies and the books, and they sort you into a house based on they answering the questions that they ask you. I got sorted into Ravenclaw, which is in every Harry Potter quiz that I do, I get placed into Ravenclaw, so that was very accurate. But if you didn't like where you got placed, at the end they're like, do you want to just pick your own house, or you want to stick with what we gave you? Which I thought was kind of lame a little bit. I'm like, hey, no, you answer the questions. This is what house you get put in.
Yeah. I wonder.
But go ahead.
I was going to say, I wonder how that plays into the story, like down the line. I wonder if that drastically changes the game depending on which house you get put in.
So I know there are different side quests depending on which house you're in. So you won't be able to get a side quest in Gryffindor that you would if you were in Ravenclaw. And from what I've heard, based on a random TikTok that I watched, Ravenclaw has the least interesting side quest. So that's kind of a bummer, but maybe he's wrong, and it could be just somebody lying. But yeah, from what I've heard, there are different side quests for which house you're in.
Okay. So I do wonder if at some point you're going to encounter Harry Potter in the game, or not.
That I don't know. There was a Weasley, I think it's the Weasley. I don't know which Weasley it is. I don't think you're going to run into Harry's. I believe the game's set in the past, like farther back than maybe Harry was even born. I can't remember how many years back in the past it is since like the actual, Harry Potter with Hermione and Ron and all those guys. But maybe some of their family you could run into, because I did run into a Weasley, which is, I don't know how they're related to Ron, but I believe it's someone in his family, obviously. So there may be some nods to certain characters as I progress, but I'll let you know when that happens. Because right now I've kind of just been messing around with side quests.
Question: how many of the books have you read all the way through?
All of them.
All of them?
All of them.
What about? Isn't there like a spin-off series, like the Fantastical Beasts?
Fantastic Beasts, I did not read any of those. I have watched a couple of those movies, and they're not good. I recommend that. But the base Harry Potter, I've watched all the movies, and I've read all the books.
All right, nice. So have you played any other Harry Potter games prior to this?
So the last one I played, interesting enough, was probably that Quidditch one that they had on GameCube back in the day. There was one like straight up dedicated to just playing Quidditch, and I thought it was awesome. But
I could have sworn you had a different one on GameCube, because I vaguely remember playing a different one at your house way back in the day.
I did. I believe it was maybe one of the ones based off of the movies, like a recreation of one of the movies. When the movie comes out, they make a game shortly after. Yeah. I want to say it was like the Chamber of Secrets game, and you play. It's mostly like a linear story going through that, which from what I remember was pretty fun.
Yeah, I remember playing a little bit of it. I don't remember if I liked it or not, but that was on GameCube, right?
It was on GameCube.
What you had it on? Okay, I remember that.
Yep, that's funny, because I didn't even remember it until you brought that up, and now I can vividly remember you playing that.
Yeah, because I think even back then I was I really liked. I haven't read any of the books. I read, I think, maybe half of the first book, but I definitely saw all the movies. And I think even back then, I was like, the idea of a Harry Potter game just made sense to me.
Right.
I was like, yeah, this is like the perfect thing to turn into a video game.
And I'm pleased to say, like, they've done a perfect job creating this world and making it super charming and just making me want to. If you make me want to just go explore and not even like focus on the main quests, like, you're doing a great job in what you're creating. Like, I'm just running around. There's like little puzzles that you can do. There's like little door puzzles where it's kind of like a little like math game where you're trying to like do like some addition to figure out which symbol that you need to rotate something to so the door will open. And I've just been finding those all over the place and just been opening them and getting gear, maybe getting a new pair of glasses for my guy or a new scarf or something. But it's just fun just walking around and getting all the collectibles that they have and seeing side quests along the way. You run into other students. They're like, hey, can you help me find, such and such? So, yeah, it's super charming. I can't wait to play more. And I do want to go back, though, to the Avalanche software themselves, though. I want to go through some of the games that they have, because I'm super impressed at the game that they've made, but some of the games that they've made before that are quite funny.
Really?
So I guess they've been partnered with Disney for quite a while now, at least since around, 2007. Because they've done a Meet the Robinsons game, Hannah Montana Spotlight World Tour, Bolt, which is another Disney dog movie, Toy Story 3 movie, Cars 2, Disney Infinity 2, Disney Infinity 3, Cars 3. So all those are a bunch of their Disney titles, which if you go farther back to where they began, their first game that it shows here that they've helped develop back in 1996 was Mortal Kombat 3.
What? So they went from working on Mortal Kombat 3, one of the most brutal games ever released in history, to strictly making Disney adaptation games.
Exactly. Wild to think about.
What the heck?
Yeah, they went Mortal Kombat 3. What's another one? Mortal Kombat, it says a trilogy, which looks like they just threw three of them together in that one. They did the Tak games. You remember Tak and the Power of Juju? It was like on Xbox, like a little like.
I vaguely remember that. I never played it.
A little cute animated GameCube game. I think they had it on another console too, but yeah, they're kind of all over the place. But then they went strictly to Disney adaptations and now to a full-fledged Harry Potter RPG. I'm very impressed that they let this studio take the reins on that.
Yeah, because this is a huge scale effort. Yeah, it sounds like they went all out for this. You got me hyped for this. I'm just looking at the screenshots. The graphics look really good.
You asked me if I was fighting a boss, and I said kind of. There was a story element, which is not really a spoiler. I mean, it's very early on. But I'm basically going to like the little like shopping center area they have like outside of Hogwarts, and I'm going to get like a new wand and new potions and like different random things, knickknacks that you can get. And then but this big troll comes out and starts demolishing everything, and I have to fight this big troll. And using like some of the basic spells I learned, had to take him out, and I thought that was a really cool fight to do. And I'm looking forward to the other like actual boss fights that are a little more challenging.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Hogwarts Legacy. I have zero regrets of paying full price for this game. I'm going to thoroughly enjoy it. They've done a great job, and I don't say it because I never buy games full price typically. So. Yeah, I'm excited. But that's pretty much all I've been playing that I want to talk about right now. What have you been up to?
So last episode, we talked about games where the main protagonist was not human. And we mentioned Kirby. And at the time, I was like, man, I want to go back and play some Kirby games. Well, we also talked about Crash Bandicoot. And that's what I ended up actually going back to play. So I was going through the games that I've gotten for free through PlayStation Plus, and I realized that I've gotten the most recent Crash Bandicoot game, Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. So I have not played a Crash game since PlayStation 1. I played the first game a lot, and I think I just barely played the second and third game. But I know they released ones for PlayStation 2, Xbox, and probably some others after that, and I never touched those. So I was like, all right, man, let me try this Crash Bandicoot 4, since I'm feeling kind of nostalgic for some Crash Bandicoot, and we were just talking about it, and it's a really good game. It is so similar to those first couple of games. I really didn't know what to expect. I'm like, all right, it's been, 20 plus years since the first games came out. I'm sure by this point they've completely changed the game mechanics, and it's nothing like the original games. I was totally wrong. This is just like the exact same gameplay of the original games with much better graphics. And when I realized that, I was kind of relieved. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I can hop right into this. Like, this is for real, some Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah.
So I got through the first couple of worlds, and you can either play as Crash, or there's another character you can play as. I cannot remember her name.
So I know who you're talking about, and I can't think of it either.
Yeah, but there's not a whole lot of...
You can play as her in like the remastered trilogy too, I think.
You say you can play as her in the remaster trilogy? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wonder what game she originally appeared in. But anyway, so there's not really much plot, and it's very cartoony with what plot there is. But the level design's really cool, real funky levels, real colorful. Yeah, it was just a good time. It's your typical platformer, which usually I don't really care for platformers because I'm not very good at them. But I mean, if I sit down long enough with a platformer, eventually I'll get that muscle memory to be able to actually get through the levels. And that's kind of how I was with Crash Bandicoot 4. Like, I just eventually got in the zone after the first couple levels, and it was just zoned out and was just flying through it. Like, all kinds of dangerous things were coming my way, and I was jumping from tiny little platform to tiny little platform. And yeah, you do just get in the zone of platformers. And once you get in that like zen-like state, they're pretty fun. But the game
good.
Last thing I was going to say is the game is very difficult, just like the original Crash Bandicoots, and at times it can be absolutely infuriating.
That was literally my question. I was going to ask you how the difficulty was compared to the other ones. Did they bring it down a notch just because a lot of games have done that as we've aged?
No, they did not bring it down a notch at all. And for a game that I would consider like geared towards kids, this is like super difficult. But yeah, so I played that a bunch, and the other thing I've been playing is also in one of our previous episodes, I talked about starting the Tomb Raider reboot, the 2013 game. And I was playing it on PlayStation 3, but I know that it's a much better experience on PC, and there's also like a remaster on PlayStation 4 that I think is at least 1080p, 60 frames per second. So I was like, if I'm going to really play through this, I'd rather play through it with better frame rates and better resolution. So I picked up a copy of the PlayStation 4 version. I hopped back in the multiplayer. It's still really fun. The only thing that annoys me about the multiplayer is that you move faster if you're always jumping. And I don't like when games do this. I have no problem with that being a mechanic. I have a problem with, okay, now everybody that plays the multiplayer just has to be jumping when they move. Like, it just looks ridiculous. Like, this is Tomb Raider, supposed to be kind of at least semi-realistic characters, and everybody's just bunny hopping the entire time. And it gives you a huge advantage because now you're moving faster. So if everyone else is bunny hopping, if you don't want to get slaughtered, you got to bunny hop too. So the whole multiplayer just becomes everybody bunny hopping like crazy, and it gets ridiculous.
That's wild.
Yeah, but anyway, after that, I dove into the single player, and I've been cranking through the campaign. And then I know that recently a new Tomb Raider movie came out. I think in 2018, so it wasn't all that long ago. So there was the original movies with Angelina Jolie that came out in the early 2000s, but they've since rebooted it with a new actress. And this movie is actually based on the 2013 game.
Okay.
Specifically. So they pull a lot of the plot and the set pieces from that game. So I thought it'd be nice to talk about video games and other media, because I know we've covered this before, and it's an ongoing thing. Video games
Absolutely.
get moved into comic books, TV shows, movies, pajamas, breakfast cereal, whatever, you name it. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to check this movie out while I'm playing the game. And ultimately, my consensus is the movie's aight. It's not amazing. It's not terrible. I did kind of struggle to get through all of it. It's like dang near a 2-hour movie. The actress that they picked to play Tomb Raider, I don't know, man. There were some scenes where I was like, yeah, she was the right casting choice. I definitely see her as Lara Croft. And then there was other scenes where I was just like, nah.
To be like her better than Angelina Jolie? I don't even remember. I don't think I ever watched the ones with her in it, to be honest with you.
I saw the first one, and I think I saw part of the second one. And actually, the part of the second one I saw was at your house. Your dad was watching the second one on TV in the living room, and I hung out with him and watched a little bit of it, and then I think we ended up going back downstairs and playing video games.
He probably had no idea it was based on a video game. It's just probably something that was on maybe TNT at the time or something.
Yeah, maybe. But the first one I think I saw in theaters, and I honestly don't really remember it, but I don't know. Angelina Jolie, she's kind of hard to top in any role. And I think she was a good casting choice for Lara Croft. She's obviously probably too old for that role now, especially considering that the reboot game was supposed to be like an origin story, so they're going to need a much younger actress to play Lara Croft. But yeah, they had characters straight from the game. The plot was very similar to the game. They had some action sequences that were similar to some of the levels in the game. And they even had a puzzle they had to solve. Like totally video game style. And I was like, this is hilarious. This is like something straight out of Uncharted, straight out of Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
I was dying laughing when they were in that scene. And I solved the puzzle before they did on the screen. So I'm like, yeah, man, I got this. I played Tomb Raider before. But yeah, it was all right. Finished it up. Gonna finish cranking through the game as well.
Yeah, I have wanted to play the trilogy of games, or at least play one of them to try it. I really haven't played a Tomb Raider game, maybe ever.
Yeah, they're actually pretty good. The old ones are good. They're a little bit clunky nowadays if you go back and play them. But the newer ones, I like them. They're very video gamey. They're kind of like Uncharted, where it's just very good story progression that's just pushing you through the game, and it's got enough mechanics to keep you busy and occupied while you're playing it. So it's just got a nice flow to it, I guess to say.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, so there's this movie. There is definitely other video game related media. You were telling me the other day that you've watched the Last of Us series, and I haven't seen that, so I'm very curious on your thoughts on that show.
Yeah, critically acclaimed at this point. They are 3 episodes in. They're coming out with the 4th on Friday instead of Sunday because of the Super Bowl, obviously. So I'm pretty excited to be able to watch it a little early, but it's as much as we bash a lot of the video games turned movies, TV shows, whatnot, this one I have 0 negative words for. It's amazing. They did such a great job with it. They're doing such a great job with it. And I think it really is great is because they really stick, kind of like you're talking about Tomb Raider, they stick to the game material. And they really are working around the actual events of the first game. So much that even people were like going back and looking at the game and finding screenshots of the game and then in the movie, and they're finding one-to-one like screenshots of like movie game, and they're the exact same shot. And it's really cool. And there's even some lines that I know there's a couple lines that Ellie said in the game that she said verbatim in the show as well at the same time, which I thought was really cool. Like, yeah, I could go back and be like, oh yeah, I remember that scene exactly. And then seeing it directed and on the big screen in an HBO show is really cool to see. I think on top of that, Neil Druckmann, who is the creator of The Last of Us, part with Naughty Dog, he helps direct. I think he plays a big part in directing the TV show as well, which I think plays a huge part in it because I mean he created these games. I mean, he played a huge part with everything in these games. So it's nice that he has a big hand in it, that he can help guide it to where it needs to go. And then on top of that, the casting in general was perfect. I think they really needed to think hard on who would be Joel and Ellie, because Joel and Ellie in the first game are the main characters, obviously, and they play such an important role, and their relationship together has to be spot on because the relationship they have together in the games was amazing and made it like one of my favorite games I've ever played all time, just because that story's great, the gameplay's great, everything they've done is great. And watching the show, Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, Joel and Ellie, they couldn't have picked a better duo. They bounce off each other so well. The banter that they have back and forth is funny. The serious moments are captivating. Like, I don't know, it's perfect. It just brings me back to playing the game for the first time and how much I loved it and how much it was a monumental experience for me to play that game for the first time. And then watching it as a show, it's awesome. And on top of that, last thing I'll say is I've gotten some of my non-gamer friends who have zero idea what the heck The Last of Us is. I'm like, hey, just watch this and let me know. Let me know what you think. Just watch it. And they love it. They're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
And see, that's the perfect thing, because The Last of Us had such a good plot. And this way, yeah, just way more people will be able to experience it. People who don't play video games. Like, that plot is too good to only be told in video game form. And it's amazing that they follow it so closely, because that's all we ask for. It's like Hollywood. There's all these great stories in games, and then for some reason they just get lost in translation to television or movies, and then they're nothing like the game. And then you have all these people who don't play video games, who don't like these shows, who are immediately going to think that the video game series sucks because the show sucked.
I think it goes back to when people ask me, they're like, oh, well, why do you play video games? Like, what is it that like really like brings you into these like single player experiences where we're not even playing with friends or anything? I'm like, the stories are, there's so many good, like you said, so many good stories in gaming that people tell that just are just far beyond what anybody is bringing into movies or TV shows or whatnot. I feel like there's so much more in-depth stories that are being told through games that are backed up by gameplay that I can actually like play my way through it than in movies and TV shows. And like you said, when those awesome stories get brought over to other forms of media, they aren't always a one-to-one, which is disappointing because it just gives a bad taste to people that don't play these games and don't understand it. Like, oh, that was a shitty Assassin's Creed movie. Why? That can't be a good game.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If it's not broke, don't fix it. If the story is just already written, why are you going back and rewriting it? It's there for you. Just translate it.
It just makes me more mad of why they can't get Resident Evil right either. Why they can't just do it one-to-one with some of the Resident Evil stuff. They never fully try to do that.
Yeah. Oh, one more question about Hogwarts. What's it? Hogwarts Legacy, right?
Legacy.
Is that the name of it? Is that single player only, or does that have multiplayer?
Single player only, but I would love if they take this game and then they're like, hey, we should do a full-out MMORPG
Oh, that'd be
in the
cool.
Hogwarts Harry Potter world. Oh my gosh, I'd be addicted from day one.
maybe that's next. Maybe that's next up on their agenda.
Never know.
All right, well, I'm super glad to hear that The Last of Us is good. It's on what, HBO or Showtime?
HBO.
I think I have HBO, and if so, I'm gonna watch through it. All right, so on to some more depressing news. Microsoft has stated that they are pulling some games off of the Xbox 360 marketplace, online marketplace, which probably doesn't matter to most people because most people have transitioned on to Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and the Xbox 360 has mostly been left behind, but it's near and dear to my heart. And if it was my perfect world, all these consoles would last forever. Their online services would last forever. Their marketplaces would be open forever. Because sometimes it is fun to go back on these old consoles and just go through their online store. Like it's been pretty recently that I've gone through PlayStation 3's marketplace. I've gone through the Xbox 360 marketplace just for some nostalgia and just be like, wow, man, there used to be so many good games for sale, so many like indie games. Xbox 360 was a huge platform for indie games.
Yeah, I want to add to that point because the Wii U library, the Wii U was never bought by anybody, but I bought one because I'm a gamer nerd. So the Wii U marketplace was probably the best store Nintendo ever had on any of its consoles because they had games from every generation that you could purchase and own. And now with the Switch, I mean, they shut down the store because they wanted to monetize these games on their Switch marketplace now. So a lot of those are like blocked through the Nintendo Switch online service where you have to pay monthly for that or yearly. And you can't now go into the Wii U store, which had like this amazing library of Nintendo titles.
Yeah, that's such a bummer. And yeah, it's so cool to me that there are these marketplaces that are fully matured, because the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, the Wii, which that marketplace has now been shut down, the Wii U, it just had so many titles. You could log in there and just have thousands of titles at your fingertips. Xbox 360 marketplace had original Xbox games. It had Xbox 360 games. They had all kinds of arcade games that they brought over. They had Super Nintendo games that they brought over, Sega Genesis games. Maybe not Super Nintendo, but Sega Genesis games. You could get like the old Castlevanias and stuff. And then the PlayStation 3 online store, you could get the PlayStation 2 classics. So they had a huge library of PS2 games you could get. PS1 classics, huge library of PlayStation 1 games. And again, they had games that you could get in retail, and they also had games that were exclusive to the marketplace. So when that marketplace shuts down, those exclusive titles are gone forever. And having said all that, you could tell I'm passionate about these older systems. Microsoft is pulling some pretty big titles from Xbox 360. Now, just looking at the list here, obviously, if you're just listening to the podcast, you won't be able to see this, but if you're watching it, it's on the screen right now. There's about, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 50 games here, and some big ones too. They're getting rid of a bunch of Assassin's Creed games, which I get. You could still get those on newer platforms because most of those games have been remastered or re-released. Getting rid of some Call of Duty games, getting rid of Counter-Strike Go. Okay, this blows my mind that Counter-Strike Go was on Xbox 360. I always forget about that. Like, who was playing this on Xbox 360? I think it was on PlayStation 3 as well.
I played it on Xbox 360 before I ever owned a computer. When I was I was very young and I hadn't built a computer yet. I didn't even really know what Counter-Strike was at the time. And I did play it on my 360.
And you must have bought it off of the online marketplace because I'm pretty sure they never sold that game physically.
Right. Yep, I did. And I think, though, it may still be like a backwards compatible title with the most recent Xbox, though. I'm not sure how that works, but...
Okay, so that is one thing that they said in this article, that any of these titles that they're removing from the Xbox 360 marketplace, if they are backwards compatible with the Xbox Series X, then they will still be available on the Xbox Series X, but not the 360.
Got it.
But anyway, yeah, that Counter-Strike Go one, I really would like to know who is still playing that on Xbox 360 and PS3. Are there any lobbies that still have players in them?
There can't be. It was a very clunky game on an Xbox because it's not meant for an Xbox.
Yeah, and I could have sworn, I think originally there was talks about doing cross-play between PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC.
Oh, no.
And I don't know if they ever implemented that, but if they did, dude, those console players would have been getting slaughtered.
No, as a veteran Counter-Strike player on PC now, I probably have logged thousands of hours into that. There is no way somebody holding a controller would even get one kill, probably, unless somebody was standing still.
Yeah. All right, so that's going away, and it's digital only, so you'll never be able to play that again. But also, the article said if you've already purchased these games, you can still download them. It's just new people who have not purchased them will no longer have an opportunity to. They're getting rid of Dark Souls, which is a bummer. Darksiders 2, Daytona USA, which is an old arcade game that they must have See, that's what I'm saying. They had a lot of cool old arcade games that they re-released on 360. Far Cry 2, Final Fight Double Impact, Jet Set Radio, Left 4 Dead, and Left 4 Dead 2. That is a bummer that those are going away. Limbo, which was like one of their biggest arcade games back in the day. Lost Odyssey, Mass Effect 2, a bunch of other ones I don't really know what they are.
Lost Odyssey, one of my favorite JRPGs of all time.
I've heard that's good, but I've never played it. Prince of Persia, Skate 2, South Park: The Stick of Truth, Spelunky, Splinter Cell Conviction, Star Wars Battlefront, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, which both of those the last two I named off are original Xbox titles. Yep. The Orange Box, which means Half-Life 2, what else came in that? Portal,
Team Fortress 2, and Half-Life 2, and
so that's
Portal 1.
That's a really big game to be leaving the marketplace. And then The Witcher 2 is the other big one leaving.
Kind of like you said, it's not a problem for the ones that you can still purchase on more modern consoles, but I'm looking at some of the comments, and Jet Set Radio Future, one of the classic games on regular Xbox, or the original Xbox, that I remember my buddy John playing a ton of that. That one does not have a release on any other platform. So that one, once it's gone, it's just gone, unless you own a physical copy, which in those cases, with like classic old school games like that, that's a huge problem.
Yeah, those are the ones that are most sad to see go. Yeah. Anyway, I was kind of thinking about this the other day. So there was like I said, I had gone through the PlayStation Store not that long ago, the Xbox 360 marketplace not that long ago, which I encourage anybody to do if you still have those consoles, because it's totally a time capsule. It is so cool. But anyway, there was a couple of games that I knew I either could not get physically or never would be willing to spend the money to get them physically. So I was like, I'm better just go ahead and take this opportunity now to purchase these games on these online marketplaces while they're still around. And here we are a couple weeks later, and Xbox 360 is having games removed from the service. So the Xbox 360 game I picked up was the remake of Perfect Dark.
Oh.
The original N64 version. Rare made a HD remaster of that. And it's only digital. I believe you can get it on Xbox One and Xbox Series X, but I currently don't have those consoles, and there's no way to get a physical copy. So I was like, let me go ahead and purchase this because this is one of those digital-only games that I want to have.
You and I
And
played through Perfect Dark Zero once upon a time.
yeah, a couple years ago during Christmas holiday break, Mitch and I played through Perfect Dark Zero on Xbox 360. Of course, that one you can get a physical copy of. Weird game. Not great, not bad, weird.
I only enjoyed it because you and I were playing together. Otherwise, I would not have enjoyed it.
Yeah, sometimes it's the company you have while playing a game, not the game itself.
Exactly.
So anyway, yeah, I picked up the Perfect Dark HD remaster. That was like $10. And then on PlayStation 3, I got The Puppeteer and Yakuza Dead Souls. Now, both of these games you can get physical copies of, but they've shot up in price on the PlayStation 3. And they're at that point where the price for a physical copy does not justify how good the game is. I think
the juice is not worth the squeeze.
Yeah, exactly. They're sitting around maybe the $50 to $70 range right now. And Yakuza Dead Souls was a zombie spin-off of Yakuza.
So I was wondering if it was in the Yakuza Like a Dragon universe.
And it did not get very good reviews when it first came out. I think they reused the whole map from either Yakuza 3 or Yakuza 4, and they just repurposed it and changed it to like a mindless zombie shooter, which is
interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, this probably isn't good, but it's interesting, so I want to try it. And it was $15 on the PlayStation 3 store as opposed to like $60 buying a physical copy, which I would have just been like, this was not worth $60. And then The Puppeteer I always heard was a good game. And again, I think it was maybe like $15 on the online store versus $60 for a physical copy.
Okay.
So, yeah. Anyway, any final thoughts on this story, Mitch?
No, I do like how Xbox at least gives you that option on recent consoles to get all those games backwards compatible and whatnot. Because I mean, there's a lot of the PlayStations and even the Nintendos for a stretch are either trying to put a paywall in between, or you have to pay monthly, or PlayStation just simply isn't even doing it for the most part. So I like that there's an option. I don't like when games like Jet Set Radio are getting taken off of a store, but there's no other option to buy them.
Yeah. And that's why I will always champion physical over digital. Because, yeah, I've downloaded these games to my console, but what if my PlayStation 3 fries? What if my Xbox 360 fries? And then there's no longer an online service to be able to re-download that game I've already purchased. Then if I go buy another 360, I'm just out of luck. But if I got the physical copy, every Xbox 360 can crap out on me every couple of years. So it doesn't matter. I still got the game. I can always get a new 360, and then I've got the software to play in the console.
Yeah, I have friends who give me shit because I buy physical copies a lot of the time. But one, I get them for cheaper prices, and two, everything you just said, I still have that disc no matter what happens.
Yeah. So, I mean, times are changing. Physical is becoming less of a thing, and I embrace it with newer titles, but with the older stuff, especially stuff that doesn't need giant day one patches to even work, then I'd rather own the physical. But if it's just going to be a situation where, man, that you need that day one patch, then yeah, I'll just get a digital copy. Anyway, I can go on about that forever. I do enjoy collecting games just as much as I enjoy playing them. And we've got one more story to cover, which is also Xbox 360 related, which again, one of the greatest consoles ever released. And Mitch, I'll let you take it away on this story because I was not even aware of this.
Yeah, the power of Twitter. I was just scrolling through Twitter and saw an article, I believe it was an IGN article, about to commemorate the 17th anniversary of the release of Xbox 360, which I think is very strange. They are commemorating the 17th anniversary of the release.
Yeah, it's
17 is a very odd number.
anniversary.
But that's what it says on their sites. But the peripheral maker, they're called Hyperkin, and Hyperkin is the ones who brought back the Duke controller, which is the big fat original Xbox controller. They are now bringing back the Xbox 360 controller just the way that it was and the way we remembered, and probably the start of Xbox being the leader of the most comfortable controller, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's hard to beat the 360. I mean, the Xbox One and Xbox Series X controllers are just small iterations and small improvements, but essentially, at heart, they are that Xbox 360 controller.
This is officially licensed by Xbox, which I believe the Duke controller that they remade was also officially licensed by Xbox as well. The only downfall of this one, it is fully wired from what I was reading. There is no wireless option for it, and I'm not a big wired controller fan nowadays, unless maybe I could plug it into my PC, play on my PC, which is right next to me. That'd be fine. It's compatible with both the Xbox Series X and S, but also with your Windows 10 and 11 devices. So, like I said, play on PC as well, which is pretty nice. And yeah, I mean, it's really just living up to its name. It's just a remade version of the old Xbox 360 controller that we know and love, and just bringing back how much we love in that console and the nostalgia we have for it. I'm sure it'll sell well.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, well, I'm looking at the pictures. It's not out yet. It sounds like it's coming out sometime next year. And they're going to release it in 4 colors. It looks like black, white, pink, and red. And the only difference I'm seeing is it now has the share and menu button that the Xbox One controllers have. And I'm assuming that's just to make it compatible with the Xbox One or Xbox Series X. And you mentioned, that they re-released the original Xbox Duke controller. And when Hyperkin did that, so it says that was released in 2018, and then they re-released a few more collector's editions in 2021. When that originally released by Hyperkin, I was super, super excited about that. And again, it's wired only, which is kind of a bummer. But the only thing that stopped me from purchasing one of these, and they are really cool. I'm looking at the images now. They had a black one, and then they had some limited edition ones I mentioned came out in 2021. There's like a white one, white and black one, green and black 20-year anniversary one, and then there's a really cool purple Halo Cortana one, which I didn't even know they came out that one. I
didn't know either.
That would probably be the one I would get at all these. And instead of having the little Xbox emblem right in the middle of it, it's actually a screen. So when you start up the controller, it'll show the startup animation from the original Xbox. And that is so cool. I think it plays the sound nostalgia. And everything too.
It does, yeah. It plays the sound too. Like that whole thing is super just nostalgia in your hand.
Yeah. The only thing that stopped me from getting one is they were expensive. I want to say they were probably around $100. And $100 for a wired controller, when wired controllers are typically the cheaper controllers. That was kind of a hard pill to swallow. And then the original Xbox only had 2 trigger buttons, but all the modern Xbox consoles have 4. And I don't know how they handled that with these Duke remakes. I don't know if they went ahead and added 4 triggers. I don't think they did. There's like 2 extra face buttons on the controller that I think they're mapping those extra triggers to. And that would be so awkward. And you'd just be so severely handicapped only having 2 triggers when every modern game expects you to have 4. So the controller just didn't seem like it would even really be useful. And for $100, I just couldn't justify it.
And in general, those Duke controllers, while they are very nostalgic right now, they were never very comfortable because of how bulky they were. Like it did not feel good to like have to grab and play a game with those controllers.
Yeah.
I know I probably used one for a very short time, and then I switched over to the smaller one that they eventually made.
Yeah, you're right. At the end of the day, they were like the worst design. Nonetheless, good. They were a part of Xbox history. Now, it's so weird to me that they're re-releasing the Xbox 360 controller, because all the way up until maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was still using an Xbox 360 controller because they still work just like an Xbox One or Xbox Series X controller for PC gaming. So yeah, that was my PC controller, just a 360 controller.
Yeah, I feel like it was the same case with a lot of my friends, because you could easily go pick up a used like 360 controller from wherever for super cheap, and you're like, all right, works great on my PC, awesome.
Yeah,
you're never far. Like, you don't need the wireless capability because you're never far from your actual desktop.
Yeah. So it is kind of weird to think about buying a re-released Xbox 360 controller when I got like 3 of them laying around the house. I probably won't be picking one up, but still, I love that they're doing it.
I'd be more inclined to pick up the Duke just for the nostalgia I had there.
Yeah.
And more than the 360 controller, because the Duke at least has that cool center of the screen, like you said, that makes the noise and shows the intro and whatnot.
Yeah, man, I am curious what those Dukes are going for. Just out of curiosity, I'm a Hyperkin Duke. Just check a quick eBay listing. A new sealed one for $75 shipped. The 20th anniversary one sealed, $70, and an opened one for $40, and the Cortana one is going for $90. And apparently they also had a red one, which is going for about $70, and an opened Cortana one for $61. And then looks like the cheapest you're going to get them is about $50 on the low end for an opened used one. Interesting.
Not terrible for resale, I would say, for them, especially not being sold directly from Hyperkin at the moment.
Yeah. Man, that Cortana one is just beautiful, though. Wow. Even the box it comes in is totally original Xbox, like, all the way. Let me pull this in view. Yeah,
I know I told you I still have a couple original Xbox controllers that I found when I was cleaning out some stuff at my parents' place. But unfortunately, with those old Xbox controllers, there was like an extension on the end of them that you could pull off that would have like the slot that you would plug into the actual Xbox.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, the extensions on both of my controllers are gone.
Oh, they do have 4 trigger buttons.
Interesting.
So you could play modern games with them.
Yeah, looks a little more appealing.
All right, yeah, man. I'm gonna go lock my wallet up, man. This Cortana controller is $110. I don't even need to be looking at it. No, get the temptation out of here.
I could swallow like $60, but
yeah,
even then.
Anyway, those ends of those controllers always got lost.
I'm sure my dad found it and just threw it away because he thought it was nothing.
Probably, what the heck is this? All right, that was a good episode, man. We covered a lot of stuff that I was really excited about.
Absolutely.
I think we can wrap it up there. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. You can find all our episodes on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and Mitch, want to let them know where else we are on the internet.
Yes, absolutely. We're at Twitter, which you can find us at Hills Are Silent. Instagram, which is Instagram.com/Hills Are Silent. Our YouTube is at The Hills Are Silent. And our TikTok is at The Hills Are Silent Podcast. If you have any questions or comments, you can send them over to our email inbox, hillsaresilent@gmail.com. We'll catch you in the next episode.